What's up everyone, and welcome to video number 2 as part of this 8-part series on how you can launch a podcast. In this video, we're talking about preparation, what to do before you even get started with hitting that record button. Because sure, you could hit record, you could start with an interview or start talking about a particular subject matter, but it's always good to go in with a bit of a strategy so that you don't get stuck partway through the process. With that said, I don't want you to do so much time preparing that you never actually pull the trigger and launch your podcast. Oftentimes we are trying to make things so perfect before we actually go ahead and proceed. My advice is you've got to start somewhere. You've got to start recording episodes. Your podcast will get better over time. But with that said, if you do a little bit of research, even a couple weeks beforehand, and have a strategy, you can start off at a certain level that isn't level 1. Perhaps you learn from a few YouTube videos or a podcast series like this or other information, and you are able to start off with a pretty good product. For myself, I have launched 2 podcasts in the last couple years. So since I learned about podcasting, I've actually launched 2 of my own. The one I'm representing on this hoodie, it's called the Remax Hustle Podcast. So I work for Remax of Western Canada, and I thought there would be this great opportunity for training for real estate agents to interview some of the most successful agents in Western Canada and beyond, and find out what they do in their business to allow them to be successful. Or maybe there's an agent that isn't a high producer, but they've got something really unique to talk about when it comes to marketing. I wanted to feature those people so that other agents could listen. It's interesting content. It's not me, who's not a real estate agent, telling them what to do. It's their peers and other people successful in their field, and they could learn from each other, and it's a good way of promoting our agents as well. So I launched this podcast about 2 years ago, and we're at approximately 70 episodes so far. So a little less than once per week, maybe closer to once every 2 weeks, but we've gotten some really great reaction. And the platform I use to host our podcast, which is Anchor, which I will talk about in the syndication video later in this series, it gives me analytics and it tells me who is listening, how many people are listening, and even where they're from. And we found out recently that there are listeners from more than 60 different countries listening to the Remax Hustle podcast, which is a pretty cool thing that it's had a bit of a global reach. The other podcast I've started is one called Show Me the Crypto. And this is interesting for those of you who are wanting to do a YouTube series, but then just take the audio and create a podcast. Well, that is exactly what we have done with Show Me the Crypto. So the Remax Hustle podcast is just a podcast. Show Me the Crypto is a YouTube series where we take the audio and turn it into a podcast. So whether you're hoping to go in either one of those strategies, these videos should give you a bit of information. Now on the prep side, there are some things you want to think about. First off, what is your logo or your cover art going to be like? When people search for podcasts on the podcast app, there's always some sort of art that is associated with those different podcasts. So you want to make sure that yours stands out. If you're not a graphic designer like me, perhaps you want to leverage a service such as Fiverr, which is a great website where people have various gigs or things that they can do for you on a freelance basis, each with different costs charted out. I used Fiverr for a few different elements of the Remax Hustle podcast. I didn't for the cover art. Thankfully, we had somebody in-house who was able to create that and did a fantastic job, but I used Fiverr for a couple of other things. An intro. It's great to have some sort of exciting introduction to your podcast, maybe music or somebody with a deep voice who can give you that voiceover that introduces your podcast, or something along those lines that helps capture listeners' attention right away. Show me the crypto. Show me the crypto. Show me the crypto.
In a world on the brink of disruption, Two men will bring you clarity by interviewing some of the most intelligent and influential names in the blockchain world. Welcome to Show Me the Crypto with your hosts, Wade Patterson and Ulf Lonergan.
Well, hi there and welcome to Show Me the Crypto. So once you think about some of those little details like your cover art and whether you're going to have an intro or an outro or a commercial, maybe you're able to do that yourself or you have somebody else on a website like Fiverr do that for you, you want to really take a step back and think about why. Why are you launching a podcast? What are you hoping to accomplish? Are you going to interview other people, which can have some really great benefits in terms of utilizing their audience when they share that content out via social media? Or are you the expert in your field and you're going to simply provide information on a regular basis? Also, how often is your podcast going to come out? Is it going to come out every single week? Once a month? Are you going to pre-record episodes and save them? Or are you going to have a regular schedule where you're producing that content? These are all things to think about before you actually jump in and start podcasting. I want to give a shout out to a podcast that will help you get ready to podcast. This podcast is from another individual from Kelowna, British Columbia, where I'm from, and he was on a radio station called AM 1150 here in Kelowna. His name is Tim Wahlberg, and he created a great podcast for podcasters. It's called Just the Tip from Your Podcast Performance Coach. I know it's a little bit of a cheeky name to it, but they are mini episodes on various questions you might have about podcasting, such as what type of equipment, should you wear headphones, why is it important to smile when you podcast? All of these things, they're little 5-minute episodes, and before I launched into podcasting, I binge listened to many of these episodes to make sure I had the information I needed before I set out and started podcasting. There are also countless YouTube videos, and I hope this series is a really good starting point for you, but there are so many great YouTube videos that can help you through the process depending if you have a specific question about a various element of podcasting. Some other things you might want to think about. How are you going to edit audio? Are you going to do it yourself and learn those skills? Or are you going to hire that out? Because podcasting and creating a good podcast, it either takes a bit of time and learning or money. And maybe you're in that position where your time is too precious. You want to hire that out for somebody else to do and simply be the voice or the host behind the podcast. That's totally fine. Or perhaps you don't have a budget and you know you're going to be the one who needs to produce this. Like I was for the Remax Hustle podcast. I was the host, I edit the audio, I still do, I post the episodes. You can do it. I knew nothing about this beforehand, and there's so much content out there to help you out. But good preparation will help you know what you are getting into and all of the things to think about before you jump in. So like I say, start with the prep, but don't over prep. Don't let preparation scare you from doing this, because you can do it and you're going to learn a lot throughout the way. But don't just jump in the deep end without doing any sort of research at all. You want to think a little bit about the concept of your show, what you're hoping to accomplish, and how you can do that through podcasting. I hope this video on preparation was helpful for you. Again, check out the other videos in the series. If you're one of the first to this video and there aren't other videos in this 8-part series, hang tight, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when those videos exist. Otherwise, the videos will be in a playlist for you. Thank you so much for checking out this video on how to launch a podcast, part 2 of my 8-part series.